What's going on, everybody? It's Chuck, and you're watching the ITXP. Look, I'm having a lot of challenges with creating content. As you can tell, I'm now on StreamYard, not a sponsored show. This is not a sponsored show. I'm using the different platforms. If you listened to or watched last week's episode, you'll find that I had some challenges with OBS. And the challenges with OBS escalated to the point where I just uninstalled OBS. I just said, screw it. I'm not going to worry about it. Even after the show, I started doing futzing around with it, trying to figure things out. I just could not. And the different encoding methods just didn't work well for my graphics card. It's not my processor. I built this this workstation in 2021. It was at the height of the GPU shortage, so I was only able to get a NVIDIA 2090 or 2060. Sorry, 2060. And I paid a lot of money for it. I paid a lot of money for it, and I shouldn't have. But I wanted to build the machine just so I can do some recording and gaming. I have 64 gigs of RAM, the latest processor at the time, so it's good. I think it's just my video graphics card, something to do with that. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, I'm on StreamYard. Hey, I'm on StreamYard, and I was playing around with StreamYard and just seeing if this is something that will be viable for me. Because I'm going to try different platforms to see what will work, what won't work. And it looks like with some of these new SaaS platforms, I can invite guests and things like that. We'll see what happens. I don't know what will come of it, but hopefully it'll be something that can give me a little bit more opportunity to create content. If you follow my accounts, whether it be on Rumble or YouTube or TikTok, I actually started posting AI generated content. A few weeks back, I started posting AI generated content from a platform called InVideo.ai, or InVideo AI, I should say. It's not .ai, it's .io. But just recently, I uploaded my voice profile to the platform, and it's now using my voice on. Most recently, I did a video about the Russian anti-satellite technology, just to really see how much content it can create, and I put my voice over it. Is it perfect? No, but I think it's something that will actually be pretty interesting. Let's put it that way. Pretty. Oh, look at this. I'm gonna remove my blood pressure monitor, because when you get old like me, you're gonna get a lot of high blood pressure. So I'm fooling around with different technologies. I'm leveraging AI. What I'm trying not to do is leverage AI to generate descriptions of the videos for me. And I think that's where I've been somewhere where I just really need to focus on being creative enough to engage viewers, just entice viewers to actually watch my content. Now, this content isn't for everybody, and I understand that, but hopefully just attract, one or two more people either a week or a month will be great, just so they can get benefit from it, because I think there's still a big demand for folks that want to understand how to get into the industry, the technology industry. And hopefully with the insights that I give you, you can figure out how to do it from there. I'm not going to walk you. I'm not going to hold your hand. I'm not that type of person. I'm not going to hold your hand, walk you through step by step. It just doesn't work that way, because your mileage may vary. I said that last week. Everybody's story is different. Everybody's journey is different. I'm just giving you glimpses into my journey and see what you can do with it. Last week, I covered the multi-cloud journey and how you can leverage resources for free to learn multi-cloud. Today, I'm going to go through, and I'm going to go through some paid content. And again, none of this is sponsored. I just want to make sure that none of this is sponsored. I'm not providing you affiliate links. No, I'm giving back to the community. So I'm sharing two platforms that I found useful for me in my cloud journey. And I started my cloud journey way before these platforms were available, but I didn't understand the various services that I needed to, because for the better part of my career, I was purely infrastructure, core infrastructure, backend infrastructure. The cloud was something that the developers used. Oh, the developers want an AWS account, right? And some of the organizations that I worked at didn't really have a good handle on how to provision those services for the developers in a controlled, centralized fashion. Fast forward to the company I'm at now, they started their cloud journey 6 years ago at this point. And they, we did have a pretty centralized process, but that went away. So now the individual entities within the organization really are owning their cloud platforms, and we still have a role in the center, but it's really muddled at this point. So we're still trying to navigate that. And I think any good organization that wants to allow their development teams or product teams to develop quickly really have to give up some control when it comes to who manages what. Now, cyber control, cyber risk, and cyber things, obviously they should be central, but to some extent, the platform, the cloud environments, right? There's going to always be that fine line in who owns what, and that's where we're at this point. We're allowing the product teams to, or we have allowed the product teams to pretty much manage their own accounts into various cloud providers with minimal oversight from us. We do provide governance, but minimal oversight. And now we're seeing that maybe we should in kind of infringe upon some of that, because just costs are going insane. And the overall business wants to decrease those costs. Yes, we're generating new profit. Yes, excuse me, generating new products, and we're making profit, but at what cost? And I talked about this last week, right? Cost optimization is going to be key here. And it always has been a thing in terms of technology and a central aspect, because as an IT professional, I'm a cost center. So I always have to be conscious of costs. And now with the cloud, there wasn't that central governance for a long part of the business, at least the first 6 years. There has always been a mandate. Hey, you got to cut our cloud costs and things like that. But the business making those products is like, but we're making products, and we're doing well, and this and that, and it's like now it's like, well, let's become more efficient. Again, I talked about this before. How can we continue making those products at the speed that we're making them, but be even more efficient in our cost? Uh, so that's what I've been working on. So over the past year and a few months now, almost a year and a half at this point, I've been on that side of the fence, just really guiding or navigating the challenges within cloud, and putting on my infrastructure hat around it to see, how I can take the experiences I had from infrastructure and apply them to the cloud. It really has been for a long time two separate worlds. If you're cloud, you really don't want to talk about on premises. But I think the coalescing of the two environments has to happen at some point. It has to happen, because the costs can be unmanageable, especially if you're building products that aren't making that much money. All right, let's say you're making a product, again, just hypothetical, that's making $1 million a month, but you're spending $750,000 a month. Is it really worth it? Can you bring those costs down to get your profit margins higher? Things like that. Again, I don't want to dig too deep into the financial things of this, but again, these are the things. If you're early in your career, you may not be focusing on that, but keep it in your back of your mind, because these are the things that are going to help you move ahead as you progress through your career. Be cost conscious. It's always something that um, one of the things. In my first job ever, worked for a consulting company. The one client that we had initially, um, the CEO and the CFO. The CFO was a great guy, really funny Jewish guy, and I say Jewish because it was part of his personality. Um, and you think of the gentleman who played Rob Reiner. So think of Rob Reiner, right? Um, Working as a CFO, right? Very funny guy. I love the guy. He would call our boss Cadillac Joe. Now, obviously, Joe wasn't his name, but he would call him Cadillac Joe because every time they wanted to do something, he would want to spend X amount of money. So he'd call him Cadillac Joe because Cadillac is kind of, you culturally, it's a sign of luxury and things like that. Whether you align with that or not, it's neither here nor there. But he would call him Cadillac Joe, and like, Joe, you're spending all this money. What are you doing? This and that. But that was the mid '90s, right? And things there were, if you didn't know any better, yeah, spend $5,000 on this piece of desktop. You're gonna do great, whatever. Um, but early on, I didn't really pay too much attention to that until I would say probably a year into that job, where I started working with the comptroller of the company. So she reported into the CFO, and she taught me a lot around how much the company was making, how what we did impacted the company in terms of downtime and things like that. I think I shared a story previously in where our fax environment went down, and she's like, we're losing $30,000 a minute. And I'm like, okay, like, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm working, right? And I slammed the server door on her because I just couldn't, hear her yapping in my ear while I'm trying to figure this out. Again, early in my career, make those mistakes. I apologized to her afterwards, but I just explained to her that, sometimes these things are challenging, and I understand the impact to the business. Even though back then I didn't, but it's something that I will continue working on to get better, and I have. I think I have. So being cost conscious should be something that you make as part of your brand. And even if you work at a big technology company like Netflix, or those big FANG companies, right? Facebook, Amazon, Alphabet, Netflix, Google, Alphabet and Google, same thing. I don't know what that other A is for, but let's say Alibaba. I don't know. But where they have money coming in, you still need to be cost conscious, because nobody wants to spend a lot of money on this stuff, because it's all about making money, right? So if you're spending $750,000 a month on a product that only makes $1 million a month, okay, yeah, you're making $250,000, right, in revenue, but that really, you have to go to other expenses, like pay people and things like that. So are you really, you're probably spending more than $1 million just for this $1 million product? Right. So the cloud journey is something that I've been going on. I always try to give a little background story of me, and how I got to where I got to. Uh, so while I did start the cloud early on in 2008 with AWS in my previous life, we weren't really central to that. We knew about it, but we weren't really central. We had to obviously do the connectivity to AWS at the time. Being on the infrastructure side, I was part of that tangentially, but I still worked with. I don't know why my camera's freaking out. There we go. I think because of my hands are all over the place. I still worked with the networking team to get things going. But my real intro to the cloud was with Microsoft Services, business productivity online services, to really get off of our on-premises Exchange environment. And that was my foray into the cloud, at least with Microsoft, even before Azure. And we did that. We did the POC. We worked it. We started doing some migrations and things like that. And then I decided to leave the organization. But now that I'm in this space, in order to get to this space, I had to learn a lot more around what AWS offered and what services were offered and things like that. Because at the time, the organization, was AWS centric. So when looking for learning platforms that would help me learn these cloud technologies, I came across a company called Linux Academy. And I really, really jumped onto the Linux Academy trend. I think this was 2018, maybe 2019. I think they had just released their platform. Maybe around that time. Again, as you get older, time really doesn't matter. It's relative. Um, but I really jumped on that platform, and I felt like, hey, this is a really good platform to start learning things on. So as I started developing my skill sets and learning things on Linux Academy, just brushing up on Linux again. I started out my career in Linux, but I had played around with it, and I'm at that point about 5 years. I had to go back and just refresh. Linux Academy gave you playgrounds to kick the tires in various different scenarios, and then the cloud playground came out so that you could actually build your cloud environment within their own platform, so you didn't have to spend any money apart from what you paid into Linux Academy, and it was a great platform. And then A Cloud Guru came around, or I think was still around. They were highly competitive with each other. And then A Cloud Guru decided to purchase Linux Academy, so which I thought, I was like, okay, maybe this is a good move because they had complementary um, uh, platforms or products, I should say. And then shortly thereafter, Pluralsight bought A Cloud Guru, and I thought that was the end of it. I was like, oh, great. Let me go look for something else. So let me start off with what I leveraged for my AWS training and how I got certified in the associate level exam, and what I'm using to continue on in both AWS Professional and Azure. And then I'll go into back to A Cloud Guru to talk through that platform and what I'm using it for GCP. All right, let's start with that. So the first platform is from a gentleman called Adrian Cantrill. His platform is learn.cantrill.io. And if you want to look up Adrian, just go to LinkedIn and you can find his his background here. I actually found Adrian through Reddit, various Reddit forums, and I think it was an AWS forum. A lot of people were saying that he had some great content. So in 2022, actually, let me look if I can do purchase history. Oh, 2020, yeah. So July 18th of 2020, I purchased the AWS Solutions Architect Bundle. And that bundle included the associate level exam and a professional exam. Now, if I drill into this, you'll see that I only had 21 complete, and I did pass the course. I think the benefit of this using Adrian's platform is that it doesn't only focus on passing the certification. It actually gives you a real life company, or in this sense, a fictional company, I should say, Animals for Life, that have different use cases on leveraging cloud platforms. So it starts off with one AWS account, and then another, and then another, and then you add them into organizations. So each individual course builds upon itself. And it's really good in terms of getting a handle on what you need to do to effectively run AWS for various organizations. It talks about everything you need to know about the exam, but in a way that once you take the exam, you can continue moving on, building out your own expertise or your own platform. So I think one of the benefits here is that this is not strictly focused on passing the exam. It's more about leveraging the services that are covered in the exam to support a fictitious company. And I think that's key. So he has a bunch of different things here that, again, obviously all pertain to the exam. And you'll see I stopped around here to VPC because I was already, I felt like I had strong enough information to be able to pass the exam, and I did. But this is all here, right? The other thing that I found very interesting and appreciative from a consumer perspective, and I'll talk about all the things here in a second. But he does also have a section, if you're brand spanking new into tech, a thing called Tech Fundamentals, which I think is really a value add for somebody that may not be well versed in technology, or you just need to brush up on a certain few things. Um, the OSI network model, you should really understand this, because this is going to come into play, especially in the cloud, from physical to the transport layer, right, and even the application layer. Probably more so on the application layer, but it's still good to understand these layers so you understand how things work within AWS. Forget about connecting your on-premises infrastructure to the cloud. Understand how networking works in each cloud provider, because they do things a little bit differently. And that's key. So if you don't have this basic understanding of networking, you're probably going to be lost. Now, I started networking early on, in my early career, because I was trying to do all the things. I actually wanted to be a network engineer. I got my CCNA in 2000. I didn't continue with it because I pivoted to messaging and collaboration. But either way, that helped me understand the intricacies of how applications leverage networks. So, it talks about the OSI layer model, then network translations, right, and IP address spacing and subnetting, which is something I go through every single day in the cloud space. Um, right? So, and then he talks about encryption with some security things. DNS. If you do not know how DNS works, you will fail in your job as a cloud person. You need to know how DNS works. Now, I know how DNS works as I manage messaging in AD environments, so I know this like the back of my hand. I took a bind course. The bind is, DNS application, right? An application that runs DNS. Bind used to run, I think, 90% of all DNS servers around the world. That's gone down since then, but it's still pretty prevalent in some areas. So I actually took a course, I think, by the guy who created Bind. Let's see, I think it was him who developed the initial Bind DNS system. I know it was DARPA. No. Anyway, it was a dude that I almost swear it was one of these guys. I almost swear it was one of these guys. Oh, sorry, one of these guys. I think it is this guy, but I don't know. Anyway, I took a course with a guy, and it was a binder. It was like this thick. I thought I still had it, but I think I threw it away because it was just taking up space. But it was really in depth and really good, and it taught me a lot about DNS and how DNS works, and why it's not always a DNS problem. For the most part, it probably is a DNS problem, but because people don't understand DNS. The amount of people that don't understand how DNS works is mind-boggling for me, especially as an application developer. If you don't know how DNS works, and do you really code, bro? Like, I'm being facetious here, but it's just like, for me, from my perspective, I guess because of my background, I just don't understand how you don't know how DNS works. There's so many people that don't know how DNS works. It's mind-boggling. Now, when you get to AWS, DNS works a little bit differently, because AWS is actually changed the landscape of how DNS works. But you need to understand DNS. You also need to understand DNSSEC, DNS secure. So going back to this, there's a lot of things in here that under tech fundamentals that if you are starting out, I would recommend going here. But Adrian Cantrill has a lot of topics around AWS. He also partnered up with a gentleman called James Lee, who brings Azure into the fold. So now, as you can see, I purchased everything that he had available. Between him and James, I have access to not only AWS stuff, right? AWS certification courses, but again, remember, they're not just certification courses. They're going to take you through this fictitious company and how to apply those concepts to that fictitious company. He has advanced networking. He has a DevOps engineer. He has a security specialty. right? Um, and then he has Docker fundamentals because Docker's is big. And then there's also, um, you know, what was the other one that I was looking at? I think that's my products, right? My products. Docker. Kubernetes. Here you go. Kubernetes, right? Um, Kubernetes fund ECS, Elastic Cloud Container Services, right? EKS again, Kubernetes. So those things are available. Then when you go back to the Azure things, right? You have the Azure admin, the Azure DevOps, getting started with Azure, getting started with Microsoft DevOps. And then you have the solutions architect and security engineer coming soon, right? So those things are available within the Cantrill platform. Again, look him up on LinkedIn, connect with him on YouTube, or he's in the Reddit space, right? So he does respond to Reddit posts and things like that, and especially in AWS. But it's probably, if you're looking at either AWS or Azure, probably the first place I would point you to. If I go to subscribe, if I go to enroll in course, right, you can do all the things plus for a monthly payment, or you can do one payment for $600 to enroll in everything that he has available. And right, it's self-paced. He updates it occasionally when things are outdated. Like when I originally started, the associate exam was on CO2. Now it's on CO3, and it's been updated. So those things are available to you when you get access to all the things bundle. What else is here? I didn't even see what else is here. Here's a legacy one. This is the older course that I actually started with in 2020. But I think, you know, um, you know, this is going to cost you, but it's a one-time price. You don't have to worry about subscription. And once you pay for it, you have it. You see, I bought this 4 years ago, and I still have access to these things that have been updated. So I think from a value add perspective, this is a really good resource for you between AWS and Azure, and that'll cover a bulk of everything that you need to know to get yourself either ahead in your career or get a new career, new job. Right now, the job market's tight. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying learn this and you get a job. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this will give you a leg up in terms of preparing yourself for the future once the job market stabilizes. Right, the job market's crazy because we had so many layoffs in the tech space, and it's a very competitive market for job seekers. But I think as an investment in your career, try to figure out how you can fund something like this and go from there. So again, learn.cantrill.io. I'll put it in the show notes, but probably the first place I would send you to learn AWS or Azure, provided that you buy the entire bundle for whatever the cost is. It showed 600. By the time you look at it, it may be higher. I don't know, but you do you, and you figure out how you can do this. The other one is now a Cloud Guru. So I talked about this earlier. I forgot to mention, Adrian will require you to leverage your own AWS account and Azure tenant. Okay. Why this is beneficial? It's beneficial because the awareness that you'll have to put in terms of ensuring that you don't spend a lot of money on those services is going to be critical to you learning. Because in a Cloud Guru, I'll show you what in a second. In some other providers, you can leverage a sandbox environment contained within their platform. This is your account, your credit card, your money, right? So not only are you paying for the courses, but you also have to set up the AWS accounts, plural, on your own, the Azure tenant on your own, right? Using your credit card. So what's the first thing that he walks you through? Setting up billing alerts, right? Set the threshold for your billing alert. So anytime that it approaches, excuse me, that threshold, oh shoot, let me go kill everything that I have, right? That's one thing with the Cantrill platform that I forgot to mention is that you will be leveraging your own tenants in Azure, your own accounts in AWS. So if you're not comfortable doing that, then I would not suggest Cantrill. All right. But I think you'll learn a lot more because you're gonna have the focus. I can't spend a lot of money on this credit card. I can't let things run, right? Oh, I gotta shut this down, right? And that's one of the things that really comes in handy when you're working in a corporate environment where you're like, hey Chuck, why'd you leave this EC2 instance up that's you're costing us $100 a day? Why? Oh, I was playing with it. No, 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 no. So this is again why I recommend Cantrell's platform, because it keeps you more cost conscious. Now, after I set this up, I have DNS domains hosted on AWS. I spend $6 a month now on those domains, right? And then obviously they renew and things like that every year. You don't have to do them every year, but I did it every year to start off with, so that's a problem. But it's about 6 months, $6 a month. I also host my corporate website on there again for $6 a month. So Cantrell allowed me to do that because I learned how to build it and things like that, and it allowed me to create and maintain an AWS environment on my own. And I'm also doing Azure at this point now because when I did my first Azure deployment, it was a shit show. So I decommissioned that one and I created another one. So that's the difference between Cantrill and A Cloud Guru. So let's go back to A Cloud Guru. A Cloud Guru again was a big AWS learning partner. They focused on AWS, but obviously they've expanded to Azure and Google Cloud. The Linux and containerization stuff, I think, came from Linux Academy because that's what Linux Academy was big on. But the beauty of this platform is you have a lot more topics and resources at your fingertips. There's a lot of hands-on lab. Cantrill walks you through some of these labs, so you'll have to have dual monitors, Cantrill on this side, and then your live AWS account or Azure account on this side, and you walk through it. You put things. These hands-on labs are actually live environments that you walk through and click through and things like that. There's also quizzes, there's practice exams, there's different projects. This is another thing that I thought was very, very cool about A Cloud Guru. You can actually walk through building different projects with them, right? Learn how to improve up with Amazon Elastic Cache. When I did this early on, because I had Linux Academy and A Cloud Guru at the same time, they were going through what the hell was that called? Amazon Racer. So the AI car that you could I forgot what it was called. The AI car that you could do. And I actually brought this up to work, a link shortener, to see. I pitched this as a new concept for work because people were at the time were using Bitly to create shortened links. And I said, hey, maybe we could do this. It didn't get enough votes at work for me to actually do this, but it allowed me to kind of put my foot forward and say, hey, this is what's going on with Chuck. Right. So there's a lot of things available here that I think will help you learn some more things after you get your basic concept up. Because a lot of people don't like just learning step by step. They like jumping into a project, learning what the project needs and things like that. So I thought the project concept from A Cloud Guru was great. And they also offer different episodes for you to extend your learning. So A Cloud Guru has a lot more, but obviously you're going to pay a lot more. The learning paths is what I focus on. Oh, damn, what the hell's going on there? Learning paths. Here we go. There's, starting with GCP. Then you got Azure. And then you got security. Then you got DevOps and containerization. And here's the AWS stuff, right? So those are the paths that you take, and I'll show you what I'm doing for GCP. If I click on the GCP architecture, all right, I'm 34% through. It starts off with cloud computing foundations, and you'll see. Oh, Chuck, you actually went through that? Yeah, because I always want to see what these platforms offer. One thing I don't like about A Cloud Guru is that they've catered the concept of micro learning into this. So a lot of these chapters are less than 10 minutes. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. It's annoying to me. But a lot of these are broken up into 10 minutes. But if you see that, this is the architect path, it'll run you through from novice level to apprentice level to practitioner to professional and then to guru, right? So you take additional courses for that. So I think from an overall cost perspective, this is a subscription-based model that you will continue paying. And I don't know the cost because I got this through work. And this may be more than what some of you can get. But it's not cheap. Even when it was even before they were acquired by A Cloud Guru, by Pluralsight, it wasn't cheap, and that monthly subscription cost hit hard, right? And I think I did like a yearly subscription, so every year that it would come up, it's like, oh, I got to pay that amount. Now that they're part of Pluralsight, again, I don't know, what does A Cloud cost. So here we go. So Professional Plus is $47 a month. And yeah. Plus, you get unlimited access to hands-on lab as well as the cloud playground. So $47 a month, it's a lot of money, right? So if you do yearly, it's $500. But again, it's every year you're going to pay $500 compared to Cantrill, that a one-time cost that I paid. I have it, and he updates it as he sees fit. So the cost difference there, over the course of 4 years, I would have spent $2,000 on A Cloud Guru, and where I only spent, I think at most, 300, 400, 550 over that 4-year time. So again, that you have to kind of measure out how you're gonna fund this and what's more cost effective for you. But you do get a lot of functionality in the A Cloud Guru, especially with these playgrounds. These playgrounds are sandboxes. You can start a sandbox for in AWS, Azure, and Google. Right? There's SSH. So again, you don't have to worry about spending money on your credit card. You just build a sandbox here. And I've seen stories of where somebody, and I've encountered this myself. Somebody has spent $1,200 on AWS because they were doing some testing, they were doing some learning, and they forgot to turn things off. Right? It's rough. It's a big pill to swallow. I know when I did that for Azure, when I was playing around with Azure AD Premium, I thought I killed it, right? And when I got a bill for like $235, I'm like, what the hell is going on? And luckily I had the alert, right? I had the alert set up. So I saw that and I killed it right away, right? I didn't care what it broke, right? Whatever else I had going on, I killed it right away. And then I emailed them. I was like, can you explain to me what happened here? And I kind of laid out, and they're like, oh, you were on a free tier for a limited time. And then, we sent you an email. And I looked, because I owned my own email. I said, what are you talking about? I don't have anything in there. And they refunded me, but it was a pain, right? And most companies now, they don't refund as easily as they used to. So a cloud guru, you have about $458 a month plus tax, but let's say $500 a year, uh, that you can play around with anything that's in the sandbox. It probably is a worthwhile investment if you could do $500 a year, but I don't know. Then they have the hands-on lab. So again, you're getting a lot more resources for the value, but it's something that you really have to think through in terms of what is beneficial to you. Like I said, if I were recommending something to someone, I would start with Cantrill, especially if you're doing AWS and Azure, and then I would ask, well, do you mind um, maintaining your own AWS subscription and things, AWS account and Azure tenant and things like that? If they say I'm not too comfortable with that, then I put them a cloud group. Now I know there are a lot of other platforms out there. I haven't tested them all out, but these two are the ones that I really um, support. Again, this is not sponsored, and I'm not getting any affiliate links from things like that. Trust me, I'm not doing that. But in terms of value for your money, these two are the ones that I would say, yes, I would recommend those. Obviously, if you looked at my video last week, there are free resources, but some of those resources are very much, you got to read. And I think I said this a lot last week. A lot of people don't like reading, so they like kind of have that visual and things like that. So that's why I decided to come back on here and talk about some paid platforms that you can leverage that have these video courses that you can actually get and do. Now, as with anything, right? A lot of this stuff is available to you at no cost. These same resources are available to you. Granted, they may be a little bit older, but they're out there. I don't condone the use of it, but I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say, don't do that. It's illegal and things like that. Yeah, it's illegal, but it's out there. Um, so if you want to go down that route, you can. You can. And I'm not going to show you how to do it here. I did it briefly in another video, but it's out there. And I think if you look at Usenet and search Usenet for things like that, a lot of people like torrents. Usenet was before torrents, right? Um, they're out there. Now, if you want to go that route, that's fine, because that's how I started out in the industry, because I didn't have money. So again, whether you feel like it's unethical to do that, yeah, but there you have to be resourceful while working in this technology industry. You have to be resourceful, and sometimes those of us that aren't, that don't have the funds early on, you have to do what you have to do to get ahead, right? So these things are out there now. The quality may not be good, and some of them, some of the courses may be outdated, and that's kind of the risk you take when you do that, right? But if you want to learn, the abilities out there for you to grab that information. And this is why I focus on all the free stuff. We didn't have free stuff like you have access to now. Back in the 90s, we did not have free stuff that holy cow, there's so many more free things available out there for you now that if you're telling me that, oh, I only do this torrent or Usenet or whatever, good for you. But have you even looked at the free stuff that's available? And I wanted to bring this up because, again, I don't want to be a hypocrite and say, oh, only use paid platforms. I don't want to do that. I did use Usenet to download a lot of things, books and things like that, because I didn't have the means to get it. CBT nuggets back then, right? What was the other one with the train signal, right? Those things were obtained using Usenet. And this is why I'm giving back, right? I don't think that it's something where I condone, but it happens and it's out there. So you do what you want to do, but I recommend the Cantrill platform. I'll put the links, non-affiliate links, in the show notes, and see which one benefits you. Again, there are different products out there, different platforms that may be more cost effective, that may be a little bit more around your tastes. And I think this is very subjective in terms of how you learn, how you consume knowledge, and things like that. But again, I would stand behind A Cloud Guru and excuse me, and Adrian Cantrill against anybody else, right? Um, and we could talk about it. If you have somebody that you want to recommend, let me know, and I'll start doing um, reviews of these platforms if you want, and just give you my honest opinion. So thank you for listening. I think this one was really focused on these two platforms because I talked about the free resources last time, and I wanted to make sure that you understand that there are other platforms out there, especially if you're new into this space. And look, listen to me. You can do this. Trust me, you can do this. Do not be tempted to say, you know what, I can't do this, Chuck. It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a lot, but you can do this. Some of the people that I've worked with in the cloud space are not techies. They don't have the traditional tech background. One of the guys that I worked with, who when I took over the role as engineering manager, he was still with the company. I was shocked because he's really good, but he was more introverted and things like that. And I think I talked about this one time. But he, professionally or in terms of his trade or education, I should say, he's an artist, like a legit artist, right? And he joined a cloud team to do automation, and he wrote some of the best code that I've noticed because artists have that ability to think abstractly. So for him, it came easy, and fortunately for him, he moved on to better things. But I really enjoyed working with him because he approached certain challenges differently than I would have because I've been doing this 20 some odd years. So don't think that this is out of reach for you. It's not. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. This was powered by StreamYard, as you can see in the corner there. But I'll probably try something new next week to record. But I hope you enjoyed this at the ITXP. Almost everywhere. Just search the ITXP and you'll find me. And take care. Look, I'm going to do this a little bit of outro music. Let's see if this comes up. I don't even know if it comes up. Here we go. I'm such a loser.